It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back. Welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Givan II, and here is a show where we showcase and highlight urban superheroes impacting their communities. Today's guest is my dear friend, Jeffery Smith, calling from Chicago, Illinois. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Hosea. It's great to have an opportunity to be with you today.
So just to give our audience a little background about yourself, Jeff is one of the board members of the National Give Back for Kids campaign, based here in the Bronx, but national in scope. And I'm going to ask Jeff to just open up by sharing with our audience a little bit about your background, how we met, and then we'll kick it from there.
Sure. Originally, I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, but raised in the Chicago area where I went to elementary school as well as high school, matriculated to college at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, where I met Hosea Givan, and we became friends there and became members of the same fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. Upon my graduation from Drake University, I worked in corporate America for about almost 30 years in finance and accounting. And the bulk of my time in corporate America was spent at Procter & Gamble doing business development, HR generalist work, as well as the global leader for their diversity and inclusion work. I then did some consulting, which I still do some consulting on the side. But since I transitioned out of corporate America, I now serve in ministry at a church that my father organized some almost 50 years ago. And I have been serving as the pastor of that ministry since he passed away about 2 years ago. So a little bit about me and a quick history.
That's great, Jeff. You know what? Let's take this opportunity to also, if you would, your father was a tremendous individual, tremendous man, and he has such a great legacy with his involvement with the civil rights movement in the South. Can you share with our audience some of his experiences, rich and wonderful experiences?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, my birthplace was Montgomery, Alabama, which was it's pretty much what we call our family home, because both sides of my family, my maternal and paternal side, were raised in Montgomery or Raymer, Alabama, which is a rural area right outside of the city. But my parents, actually both of them, my mother and my father, were members or participated in the Montgomery Improvement Association. And for history buffs, they would know that the Montgomery Improvement Association was the civic organization that really pushed Dr. Martin Luther King and Reverend Ralph Abernathy forward in 1955 and 1956 when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus. And that sparked the now what I call world famous Montgomery bus boycott. And my father was a very active participant in the Montgomery bus boycott. He was actually a driver, because when they weren't able to ride the buses, they had drivers who actually transported the African-American community to their workplaces, to school, to wherever they needed to go. He was also attending the mass meetings, which they held twice a week throughout the entire boycott. Till the day he died, he still had his Montgomery Improvement Association card in his wallet.
That's amazing.
He went to the mass meetings, heard Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy speak on many, many occasions. He was arrested as part of the Montgomery bus boycott. And I find this interesting. When I look at the picture of him, you know how they give you a number when they process you. My father's number was 7084, and Dr. King's number was 7089.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing, man. And then you guys ultimately moved to the north, Chicago, and he continued on doing some amazing things there through the church because he
Yes,
built that church, correct?
that is correct. That is correct. As I mentioned, he began the ministry with five people in 1969, and of those five, I think four of them were in his house.
Wow.
Um, so his wife and three kids at the time, and one other gentleman. So it was a pretty small, humble beginnings, but I'm very grateful for the work that he did. This location that we're in now is actually our third location, but this location that we're in is an original building. We built this again from the ground up, and my father had experience as a general contractor or in construction, so he served pretty much as the general contractor, not only oversight, but he literally worked every day. You know, every day they were here working, he was here,
Okay.
um, laying tile, pouring cement, putting up drywall, you name it. He was very much a part of it, and but it also, I think, speaks to what this community meant to him. He also served on the school board for over 40 years. So education, youth, young people, community involvement, community service um, were very big parts of what he endeavored to do. And I just got to say this too. What's great about it in my mind, um, it, while I was with him and while we were doing a lot of those things, it just it was never about what he could get in terms of recognition. And so now you look back and say, wow, it was a lot, but at the time it didn't feel that way. It just felt like, we're just trying to do a little bit to help a few people. So
Okay.
uh,
Okay. So, Jeff, we're going to take a break now and come back.
okay.
All right, man.
I already knew that I was gonna go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Hi, I'm your host, Larry V. Stark Jr.
I'm your host, Rachel Cheeks Gavan.
I'm your host, Hosea James Givan II.
I'm your host, Rebecca Gavan.
Hi, my name is John Jenkins.
Tune in to
Ignite
Empowered
Transform
every Tuesday night
at
8 p.m.
on BronxNet.
Give back, let's give back.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
It only takes a moment to make a moment.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back. We are on with Jeff Smith, calling from Chicago, Illinois. He's one of the board members of the National Give Back for Kids campaign. Jeff, one of the things as you know, I was born in Chicago. I spent a lot of time in Chicago, particularly when we went to school at Drake University, and a lot has changed from then till now. And my heart aches when I hear about all the violence that's taking place in Chicago now. And I just want to get your sense as to why you feel it is the way it is, and what are some of the remedies to help change the whole dynamics of what's going down in Chicago now.
Yeah. I think part of why it is the way it is, I don't think the issues are necessarily unique to Chicago in terms of why it is the way it is. I think the divide that I would call that has happened, particularly from an economic and educational standpoint, and its what I would say adverse impact on the African American community. And when I say divide, I mean it in two ways. There are African Americans who have matriculated through higher education, and most of those individuals moved out of the city.
Right.
And as they moved away from the city, the economic investment and the economic divide in particular neighborhoods in the city or in cities like Chicago became much more stark. And so the decline of housing, as well as the decline of economic investment in certain communities became really, really, really stark. And I'll give you one good example. When I drive, there's a street in Chicago called Roosevelt Road. And when you're going west on Roosevelt Road, as you come just west of the loop, the street is paved and it's a smooth ride. But there's a street probably maybe around Kedzie, which is about what we call 3200 West. When you get to that street and you cross over, all of a sudden it's full of potholes.
Wow.
And those potholes are in what we would call traditionally African-American neighborhoods. That's the west side of Chicago.
Okay.
So it's a prime example of where the investment was and where the investment stops.
Wow.
And so once that investment in the community stopped, I think it just was a contributing factor to the behavior that, of course, that none of us want to see.
Right.
But I think that's one of the factors. I think the other factor very quickly was, again, in Chicago, we also, as you probably know, Chicago was a community that had public housing tenements on the south side and on the west side for years.
Correct. Cabrini Green, Ida
Yes.
B. Wells.
Exactly.
Yes.
Cabrini Green, Ida B. Wells, all of those. Robert Taylor Homes.
Robert Taylor, yeah.
A lot of those tenements, and again, they had their issues that went along with them. But one of the things that started to happen was investors, as they did come back into the city, they wanted that land. And so a lot of the residents in the public housing communities were pretty much, I don't want to say they were evicted, but the evolution was they couldn't afford what was coming in. And so that a lot of them were displaced. And so, I think that also had an impact in the neighborhoods in terms of a feeling of disenfranchisement. And so that is what I think has led to it. And I very quickly to address it, I do think we need a partnership effort. The community has to come together, police, homes, schools, families, churches, because there's a great deal of education and partnering that has to happen to reverse the mindset and the behavior.
So is there a unifying force? Is there an individual or a collective or a coalition that exists that's assisting in trying to develop that type of unity that you just spoke of?
There are individuals and there are several, but this is one man, one opinion. So this is just my point of view.
We are very interested in your opinion, my brother.
Yes. There are some individuals who are in very small pockets they're doing some great things. And I know of a few of those individuals. But the challenge is, it's one person, it's probably only impacting. And when I say only, I don't want to minimize that, but it's probably like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 block radius, maybe, 10 blocks around a particular church or community center. So the impact is relatively small. So I give kudos to those individuals who are trying to, make a difference right where they are.
Right.
As they say, bloom where they're planted.
Right.
But the flip side of that is we don't have what I would call a galvanizing, coalescing individual or organization that is really coming together to band people together to really, really precipitate change. And that is one of the challenges, that I don't think we have that kind of voice that resonates and is respected to the degree that it actually precipitates change. Again, there are some people that are doing some wonderful things. There's some people who the cameras always go to. No, I have no issues with those individuals.
Right.
But we just haven't had what I would call the kind of voice that says, let's take whatever our concerns are from a moment to a movement.
Right. Now, Jeff, Pastor Jeff. I was at your 1-year anniversary celebration, November of 2017.
And we were glad to have you here.
And I was so appreciative of the opportunity to have an opportunity to talk to you at that event. One of the things that I spoke about, and I feel very strong about this, I honestly feel you can be that voice, that person. You have the personality, you have the training, you have the experience, you have the leadership ability. And we have to get you out there. And I'm sure you're out there, but we want to make sure that we do everything within our power to give you the support that you need. Because I honestly feel that your father's background and you growing up in his household, and he's a direct descendant of that whole movement. And you're a part of that's part of your legacy. That's the kind of special leadership quality that I know you possess. I was there at Drake University. I saw you as a student senator. I saw you as a leader of our gospel choir. I saw you as a resident assistant at our school. I just think that you're the guy, man. So let's do it, Jeff.
As I said, we're doing our part. I mean, as a matter of fact, I stepped away from an event today.
Jeff, can you just hold that thought? We're going to have to take another quick break and come back, and we'll talk about what's going on in the church now and the leadership you're already providing. And I know you are.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Welcome back to this final segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. We're on the line with Jeffery Smith, Pastor Smith, out of Chicago, Illinois. Pastor, we just closed out the previous segment, and you were about to go into some of the projects that you guys are involved with. I know you took the time to spend with us this afternoon away from an activity that you're involved with right now. So can you kind of give us a sense of some of the things that you guys are involved with, and just share with our audience?
Absolutely. Yes, today I stepped away from a big event that we have done for the last 3 summers. We call it BT Extreme, which is a combination of our health fair, back to school giveaway, as well as our church picnic. But it really centers around health education for the community and giving away school supplies to our children in the neighborhood. Last year, we serviced over 350 people between our health fair, where we had mobile dentistry, giving away blood drive. This year, we again had a blood drive. We had people could actually apply for jobs here. There was a school bus company here where they were hiring people on the spot to be a school bus driver.
Wow.
We had our local hospitals come, giving out healthcare information, as well as back to school. So we have back to school supplies for, I don't even know how many kids, probably well over 150 to 200 kids between K through high school. And we give away school supplies as well. And it's in our neighborhood, it goes across both religious and racial lines, if you will. So we do that every year. This is our 3rd year. Each year we try to make it bigger and better.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things that we do. We just last Friday completed our 17th basketball camp. Um, the diehard NBA fans in our audience would remember Rod Higgins, who
Yes, sir.
was
He had a
who
jump
played.
shot.
Yes, right. He had the jump shot. Played with the Chicago Bulls and actually was an NBA executive. Really good friends with Michael Jordan. But he grew up in this church, in this community, and every year he comes back and sponsors a camp. This year we had almost 100 kids in the camp. Um, for a week of basketball drills and training. So we've been doing that for the last 17 years as another outreach in the community. So those are just a couple of the things. We do other things. We do a toy giveaway around the Christmas season. We do a big community event around Halloween where we invite, we had sometimes well over 100 kids and their parents here to just have fun. We give away, you know, truckloads, trunk loads of candy uh, in that event as well. So we really are trying to do our little bit, and it is my hope to do even more. I have great ideas that I hope to bring to fruition, but we really are trying to be a voice and a force in the community.
That's tremendous, Brian. Jeff, I'm going to ask you this, Chip. I've known you about 35 plus years. Wow. What would you consider to be your super unique power?
That's a loaded question, right? Um, I really think for me the it is my I think it's a work ethic. It is a desire, to see things happen, to see uh, people improve. And I think at that core really is a genuine concern for the well-being of others. And that I think has really driven even my corporate career. That's why I wanted to be a trainer, because I wanted people to know how to do their jobs the best way they could. That's probably how I ended up getting pulled into diversity and inclusion training, because it was really about making people, not just better business people, which is important, but we want to make them better people. The work that I do in ministry, it's really about helping people become better. And I think if I had to say unique superpower, it really is just that desire for people to get and be better in so many ways, and it just drives me um, to do what I can.
Okay. Okay, that's powerful, man. And I'm a witness. You've always been an inspiration to me as a friend. I've seen your leadership and your ability to bring people together and to inspire others. So I can testify to that. I know for sure that this is something that you possess, and I'm proud to say that I've seen you make a difference as long as I've known you. As long as I've known you. So, Jeff, we only have a few more minutes. The last thing I'd like you to do is share with our audience a statement about what we need to do, or what individuals need to do in today's world, because we're in I'll call it a stressful time for our country. We're a very divided nation. You talked about having living in a community that is diverse. And we don't see a lot of diversity today, and certainly not a lot of diversity of thought. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of appreciation for other cultures and other religions to the extent and to the degree, particularly coming from the highest offices in the land. So what would be that closing statement that you can share with our audience about what individuals can do today?
Absolutely. Um, the first thing that comes to mind is because you mentioned our political landscape. I do want individuals to know that the power of the vote is critical. And so the first thing I would ask everyone that is a part of this listening audience is to participate in the electoral process, particularly this year being a year where we're electing the House and the Senate, or it's a non-presidential year. This year, I believe, is still critical. So I would say, do not underestimate the power of the vote. So please, everyone, please vote. Um, I think the second thing that I would say, and this is something that I say when I do a lot of my training sessions, and I've actually started to say it here at the church, because sometimes people look at the world in a big way and say, man, I can't go out there and change the world. I can't go change, a particular person's, I can't do this. It's too much for me. Okay, if one feels that way, so be it. But I think it begins this way. And I tell people, you may not be able to change the world, but you certainly can make a difference in yours.
Yes.
And that's what I would encourage people to do. Start by making a difference in your world, and you never know how that will actually change the world.
Amen. Thank you for that positive statement, my brother. Jeff, we're going to be bringing this episode to an end, and I just want to thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to share with our audience today.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me, and as you know, my best of luck to you and the continued work that you're doing. Much love, much respect.
Yes, sir, and you're part of it, man.
Absolutely.
All right, fam. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Givan II. And remember, if it's in your heart, do your part. Today's help equals tomorrow's hope. I love our youth. Take care.
I see all your smiles and all the tears strolling down on your faces. But I know all the while it's gonna be okay, yes it is. Just open up your eyes. Open up your eyes. The sun is soon to shine. The sun is soon to shine. Aim your arrow high and keep reaching for the sky. It's time we give back, sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
What if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.